Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our Windows in the Cloud Ask Microsoft Anything. We're a couple days past September, but very happy to have you today. I am joined by two awesome guests. Hopefully, you saw all the news before over summer. We're very excited to talk to you today about our Windows 365 GPU-enabled cloud PCs. So again, I'm your host, Christian Montoya. Um, Ron, do you want to start introduce yourself, Femi, and then I'll just go into some announcements before we kind of get into it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ron Martinson. I'm a principal product manager on the platform team for Windows 365. And I basically focus on emerging technologies like GPU.
Perfect.
Jimmy?
Femi?
Yes, my name is Femi Adebayo. I'm a senior product manager on the infrastructure and platform team. I mainly focus on basically all our kind of Windows 365 cloud PC deployments for in terms of capacity and making sure that that works correctly and you can get your cloud PC provisioned. I also kind of work on the GPU SKU products, which I'm excited to talk about today.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot of good questions on availability and how we're expecting to use the GPU cloud PCs or how we expect customers to. But before we dive in, I do want to just cover some announcements. The last time we had our Ask Microsoft Anything, I believe it was third or fourth week of August. So we've had some great releases since then. So one of the updates is for provisioning. If you select to deploy a language to your cloud PCs, you now have the option to deploy English New Zealand language pack. So hopefully that helps all the folks, reduce one more step, eliminate one more step from the deployment process there. Another is that the RDP short path in Windows 365 now supports connections through a relay. So check out the information at ak.ms/relayed RDP short path. There's so many details there that I definitely can't get into now. Networking is a whole beast, TCP versus UDP. So just check that out to learn how to enable that for your Windows 365 environment. And let's see, last but not least, very related to GPU cloud PCs is we now support the hardware high efficiency video coding, or HEVC, or H.265, however you want to call it, for our cloud PC GPU enabled SKUs. So check out the link there, ak.ms/enable GPU acceleration. You can even pull it up now, take a look while you're listening here, and maybe that'll spark even more questions. So yeah, let's jump into the cloud PCs, the GPU enabled cloud PCs. I'll first again add this blog link. We did announce this. When did we announce the cloud PCs? Ron, was this over
Yeah,
summer?
it was August 1st, if I remember correctly.
Perfect. So for folks that aren't able to pull up the blog post, can you just give us a quick hitter of what this means for customers? What these GPU cloud PCs mean?
Yeah. So everybody knows that Windows 365 is super popular today, but one of its limitations is the fact that it's software rendered. And so that's fine for most of the workflows that we have. It does an amazing job of how it renders content today. However, there are certain applications, some of the Adobe apps and Autodesk and so forth, that require a GPU. And so in order to have those great experiences on your cloud PC, you need a GPU backing it up. So we've created a SKU to address that opportunity.
Perfect. And then Ron, can you sorry, actually Femi, I'll ask for you. How many different SKUs do we have for this? And also what are the differences?
Sure, I can answer that. So we do have two SKUs for this. So we have what we call the GPU Enterprise SKU. Then we also have in addition for Frontline workers. This is part of our Frontline product we launched a while back. And basically the purpose for actually extending to Frontline was the fact that we wanted to give the Frontline workers an opportunity where they have one license, but 3 users can actually share that GPU Cloud PC. So we have the enterprise where a traditional enterprise customer can have their GPU on their Cloud PC run, and then we also have an option for the Frontline SKU we had launched a while back, so that customers can also share that in terms of having 3 people cannot share one license.
Got it. And then within, and just real fast on the SKUs, so within the enterprise or the frontline, is there only one like GPU offering? Like, because for enterprise we have like a 2 vCPU, 8 gig RAM, we have 4 vCPU, 16, etc. Is there just one like size, or are there multiple sizes?
Run, you gonna take it?
Oh, sure. We have 3 SKUs. We call them standard, super, and max. The standard is kind of the one we expect for those that plan to use common applications, just want to improve performance of GPU, and that is spec'd out as at least 4 vCPU, 16 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of VRAM, and 12 gigs of storage. Next up from there is super. And super is your at least 8 vCPU, 56 gigs of RAM, 12 gigs of VRAM, and 1 terabyte of storage. And this is the one where we think most people will land. This is your most frequent high-end graphics apps will be able to be satisfied with this offering. And for those that would go by the a graphics system with all the best options and turn things up to the max, we have the max SKU, which is at least 16 vCPU, 110 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of VRAM, and then 1 terabyte of storage. And I say at least because what performance you get will depend on your region and the availability of GPUs in those regions, but you'll get at least these, so it could be more.
Got it. Cool. I have so many more questions personally, but I want to make sure we get to the questions that are starting to come in on the various channels, whether it's LinkedIn or X or Tech Community. Thank you all for joining and starting to contribute. So the first question we have is, can the Windows 365 GPU Cloud PCs handle intensive data processing?
Yes, they can. Our 16 vCPU SKU without GPU is also tailored for that scenario. But for those that kind of need to take it to the next level, the GPU SKUs would be great for that. Probably the standard SKU is enough for the most intensive workloads for that one.
Yeah, I guess how do we think about things that are more applications that are more computing processing heavy versus visualization? Like, if it doesn't have
Sure.
high visualization, is that why you'd say maybe the standard SKU would work better, or does it
Yeah,
depend?
probably the key thing is how big your working sets you're working with and stuff. Like, most of the Adobe Creative Suite would run fine on standard, but then you can get into Premiere Pro and After Effects and have some really huge data files and have a scenario whereby maybe it makes more sense to go up to super. And so same with Autodesk, a lot of Autodesk stuff will run fine on standard, but if you have some really huge files and stuff, maybe just overall it'd be a little bit better to bump up to super. And this is kind of like an experience you'd have on your local system, that there's the recommended, and then there's this is the one that I really want, the one that you
Your
really
mileage
want.
may vary.
Exactly.
All right. Well, in a very related question, Femi, I'll toss this to you. A question on X. Is it easy enough to switch between the options if we need more or less power?
A great question. So so for now, we, like Ron mentioned, we have the super, max, and standard. And what you can do is that obviously we try to tailor based on your compute needs and based on your GPU needs. We try to tailor each of them to your individual workload. So for now, the question is it easier to kind of switch back? For now, what you would do is you need to obviously, if you buy a standard, you probably need to go with a standard. And if you want to upgrade to a super, you can definitely upgrade to a super, upgrade to a max. But in terms of kind of downgrading between SKUs, we currently don't have that functionality or that option. So you would need to kind of purchase each of the individual SKU, which is a standard super or mask SKU.
And yeah, and then if you have, so let's say you are licensed for, I don't know, maybe you do have 3 licenses for each of those. In enterprise, we offer the ability to resize
Yes.
the Cloud PCs. Is that available for the GPU enabled SKUs, or is it going to be like a reprovision essentially?
No, it's not available. So maybe just to clarify a couple of things. So the enterprise SKU, it's a SKU that we actually run today. But what happens is GPU SKU is an additional SKU, right? So it's not a combined SKU with your enterprise SKU. You actually have to purchase that as a separate SKU to kind of run your GPU workload. So it's not you can't combine it with your enterprise. With the enterprise SKU you have today, you have to purchase it separately as an add-on to what you already have.
Got it. So it's independent. So we have like our 2.8, 416, 832, now the 1664, and then now we offer 3 more that are separate, which are the GPU standard, super, and max.
Super and max. Okay. Yes.
Cool. So then, yeah, I guess for the person asking on X, yeah, it is an independent one, no resize. So, all of our entire offering is very Microsoft 365 integrated. So, if there is something where you do want to change between which GPU SKU a user should have, just use OneDrive. Back up there. That way, even if you have to reprovision that user's device, they can quick and easily access it after you get them back onto the right SKU. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for those details, Femi. And then let's see, there is a question. What about latency? Kind of vague, but I think you have enough real life information here, Ron. Maybe you can dive into that.
Sure. Yeah. So during our preview, we had customers all around the world, and for preview, you don't always have all of your regions available right away, and so it was pretty common for customers to be in, not the most near region. And in fact, one of our partners that did some performance testing for us was based in Germany, and his GPU enabled Cloud PCs were based in Redmond. And so he was really surprised at, how well it did, and the fact that he couldn't measure any noticeable latency in his testing when rotating models and things like that. Where places where you'll feel it, for a lot of times we think about frames per second, but really with a lot of 3D objects and stuff, it's really about that responsiveness. If I rotate something, I don't want to feel, any kind of jerky motion. I want a smooth motion to it. And so when the network settings are set properly for your environment, basically you're on a good network, and your tenant is all working properly, the latency is very good, even cross region. So generally speaking, that shouldn't be a problem.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I know that our regular RDP information worker scenarios, I know that generally the protocol is really good. There's the one corner case of high latency, low bandwidth, where we do see, like, if a lot of folks are going, crossing the Atlantic for connections, there could be issues. It's really good to hear about the Germany to West US. That's very exciting. But yeah, I guess, folks, if you are using it, we would love your feedback too. On any of the GPU SKUs, really any of the SKUs. And you can submit that feedback on ak.ms/w365 feedback, which we monitor and respond to. So sweet. And actually, very similar to the latency question. At the top of the hour, I mentioned the RDP short path, which is utilizing UDP connection for your connection to your Cloud PC. Does that work with the GPU Cloud PCs, just like every other connection?
Yes, that's definitely a must for the best performance. So it's a huge help.
Okay, perfect. So let's see, another follow-up question we have, talking about latency in files. We do a lot of large video file transfers, so latency and speed are a big concern.
Yep.
Okay, So I think that was to the previous question. And
Yep.
you're saying that, yeah, as long as you're like, on a
Well,
uh
I specifically covered this in the mechanics video, that I did a big file transfer because I know this is a super important thing for myself. My background includes a lot of photography and video editing and stuff. So I deal with a lot of very large files, and so I did a demo for the mechanics video where I actually show, I think it's a 500 megabyte file, how quickly that comes down, both upload and download speeds. But that's actually a benefit of cloud PCs in general. The internet connections on there are extremely fast. So if you stay within your VM or your cloud PC, you're dealing with often very much faster performance for upload and download time or speeds than what you would typically have on your local device, which for me is great because I'm on a home cable modem, and so my performance is sort of mediocre. But when I'm connected, as long as I have enough performance to connect to my GPU enabled cloud PC, I'm able to use that. And there's times where I've been as high as 7 gigabytes during off-peak hours. And so I've had some
yeah.
amazing transfers. In fact, you start to see how fast a lot of sites performance upload capacity is, that some sites will throttle you, like a lot of, cloud services and stuff. They actually have limits, and you'll hit those limits. So it's kind of funny. You can kind of, use that fast performance to go measure different sites.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. So for folks that want to see that demo and want to see the mechanics video, so sit here on the screen,
Yep.
ak.ms/david365/GPU/mechanics. I will probably have to check that out because that is, yeah, that is one of the big things I like about cloud PCs is like everything's super fast. Everything you're trying to do for the networks, like, oh yeah, I need to download this one thing from OneDrive, for example, or just from I need to get this one update from, for whatever app. It's just like so fast.
Yeah, well, and one of the pieces of feedback that we got, which I thought was pretty awesome, is that when you have a small office of a lot of people who have these high-end graphics workstations, that generates a lot of heat and puts a lot of strain on the connectivity of that location. So this is actually a real world problem, is that these things are hot, they're noisy, and they overburden the network capacity of what they have in their office and stuff. And so they love the fact that they can have a really mediocre local connection, be in this device, upload and download these files at speeds that they've never been able to in their own office previously, and they're not dealing with all that heat. And so there's green benefits, there's infrastructure benefits. You're basically in a bad area where you don't have the quite the networking performance that you'd like. As long as you can stream that cloud PC, you're on our backbone, and that's pretty fast.
Yeah, since the data centers are doing all the heavy lifting for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, you touched on a very, I think it's a very interesting lead into the next question that we got. So the question is, so could we run a GPU edition of Windows 365 on a physical device that has minimal specs and wouldn't handle the processing needs well on its own and get better performance for that user? I feel like you basically just said yes.
Yes, absolutely. That's the core scenario. The cool thing here is that you just need a system that, has the ability to run the cloud PC and have, everything local these days. And pretty much any device that you buy is going to have at least an integrated GPU. And so, I've used my old Surface Pro 4 on with one of these, not a problem at all. Generally speaking, as long as you can run your cloud PC, you're good.
Perfect. Let's see. The next question we have, I think Femi, you alluded to Frontline earlier, so I wonder if this question would be for you. Can we share a Windows 365 GPU PC with multiple users, like those working in shifts on a common project?
Good question. Like I said before, so we have the enterprise SKU, which is kind of just one user kind of has a license and they can kind of use the GPU Cloud PC. Then we also have the Frontline SKU, which is an existing SKU we have today. And what we did was that we introduced GPU to that SKU. So basically, you have a situation where you have one license, but 3 users can kind of share that GPU Cloud PC, but they will have to do it at different times. So they can all log in at the same time and use the GPU Cloud PC. They will have to kind of log in one by one, basically like a shift scenario where they log in and they're able to kind of share that Cloud PC, but not at the same time.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Because I think what you mentioned is even Frontline, every user that's licensed still has their own Cloud PC. It's just that they're working in shifts. So, really, what we expect maybe 8 hour shifts, 6 hour shifts, somewhere in between, where not all of them have to be, um, you know, immediately available. So yeah, I think that's a good call out. Because with Azure Virtual Desktop, I believe you can use multiple people running on the exact same like GPU host. I don't know if Ron or Femi, if you can confirm that, but I believe that's the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, so there's multi-user on AVD for Windows 365. It's always single instance, which is a performance improvement. We're really optimizing for the graphics user who really needs the best performance.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. For whoever asked it, if not, please do ask again and ask anything that we might have missed. Okay, another question that came in: how many displays can we use with GPU Cloud PCs? Also like all 4K? Question mark.
Yeah. So the standard SKU, we're primarily targeting one 4K, or you can do 2 lesser resolution displays. For the super SKU, we're looking at up to 4Ks at 30 frames a second, and max you can do up to 4 at 60 frames a second. So we're definitely optimized for the multi display user. I'm personally running off of 3 most of the time for mine, and super is a great fit for me.
Yeah, I think that's it's a good call out because obviously when you're using uh apps that need that acceleration, that power, obviously that's when you would probably ramp up the frame rate. But
Right.
when you're not using that and you're, on the side, you're checking mails, or doing other word, writing a Word document, looking at a PowerPoint. Um, we actually, a lot of our protocol tries to be optimal about bandwidth usage. And so
Right.
it's not going to, it's going to try to find ways to optimize. And so there might be cases where it does try to send all the bits down every single, every single refresh. But then there are other times where it's optimized to actually just send incremental frames. That way it's not using the bandwidth. So our protocol handles all that. But I think Ron, what you mentioned, um, you know, that's good guidance for, if maybe if peripherals and monitors are essential, that's part of the technical capabilities, that's part of the setup of what, admins might be looking at when deciding which licenses to buy and which ones to assign. So yeah, thank you for that guidance on the
Yeah, and I actually want to say one thing about this too, because I hit an interesting problem that never really dawned on me when I was doing my own initial testing, that I think some people might get bitten by. So it'd be good to have the information out there. And that is, my primary system has a 60 frames per second display. I have a budget friendly 4K external display that is running at 30 frames a second. And then to my left, I have a big 55-inch Sony 4K display, which I use for presentations and stuff like that. And but I use it as a PC display. And that one, because I'm running at full 4K, I'm actually only at 24 frames a second. And so the experience that I have my Cloud PC obviously is going to be different on each display. And so initially I was really struggling with the fact that, like, why am I only getting this kind of stutter or jitter when playing back this high frame rate, 60 frame rate frames per second video. And it's because the display I was running it on was only 20 frames a second. When I moved that window over to my 60 frames a second display, I got 60 frames a second. So it's kind of important to call that out, because I think a lot of times we don't really think about that. With our displays, we're just really kind of focused on, we have multiple displays, let's run it, and everything should be the same. But it's really depending on the performance of your actual display settings.
Yeah, no, that's really good call out. Thank you for doing that. So folks, if you're testing, definitely take that into account.
Yep, exactly.
So either for Ron or Femi, and the next question that came in is Windows 365 GPU performance dependent on region. Also, I'm gonna say is the SKU availability dependent on region. I'm gonna add on to that.
Yeah.
So performance and availability on region.
Yeah, so it's available in most of our supported regions. We have I probably should have put a link to this, but we have a supported regions page that basically lists out where we're supported. We try to have the same GPUs in all regions, but that's not always possible. So there is some variance depending on what region you get in terms of what GPU you'll get. They'll always meet the performance specs that we advertise. So that's basically, you think of it as you'll be that or greater. And that's why I mentioned the or more, because where possible, the performance will always be significantly better than what we actually quote. So I actually hit on this on my preview blog, where I said, hey, look, we may be saying 4 vCPU, but you actually may have more vCPUs depending on the SKU that you get, and generally speaking you will, but you'll always have at least 4. So basically you're paying for 4. You might get effectively a free upgrade depending on the GPU that you get provisioned in any given region.
Sure, cool. Yeah, and so that doc that you're mentioning, Ron, for folks here, you can go ahead and check out ak.ms/win365 GPU doc. All right. Let's see if we can get some more questions in. So Femi, in terms of the provisioning for the GPU enabled cloud PCs, for folks that are Azure enthusiasts that have set up GPU cloud PCs, usually there's extra setup that they have to do. Sometimes pull down the latest NVIDIA driver, set other policies locally to really leverage the GPU. Do Windows 365 customers have to do the same, post deployment steps, or do we cover that as part of just creating that cloud PC?
Great question. So we do cover that as part of creating the GPU cloud PC. So we kind of all the basically the NVIDIA and AMD drivers that are going to be used are kind of installed at the time of provisioning, so that the user can definitely have that unique experience when they are kind of using the GPU cloud PC. So we do kind of provide that as part of the provisioning step where we installed those drivers for them.
Okay, cool. So it really is as I guess turnkey as they're trying to make the all up Windows 365 offering. You just assign the license, make sure they're in the right group, and then they just get the benefits of that cloud PC.
Yes, we're trying as much as possible to let the user kind of be hands-on with the provisioning process, and we take care of their needs in terms of making sure that they have the good experience, using the GPU cloud PC, and we take care of all the hard work they have to do to provision it.
Yeah, this is a huge improvement over if you've dealt with any sort of GPU cloud experience to date. This is the easy button that you've been hoping for.
Awesome. And one more question, Femi, on the provisioning stuff. When you're provisioning cloud PCs today, you go through provisioning policy, and then you have the different steps like the region, the image, the essentially the customizations of like language and other VM config. Does anything in that process change because the license is a GPU enabled cloud PC, or is that also all the same?
No, it's really all the same. You kind of get the same experience. The only thing obviously is that that you're purchasing is the GPU license itself, but all the kind of provisioning steps you would experience with enterprise at provisioning today is the same. It's the same thing. We're trying to make it as easy as possible and as user friendly and as familiar as possible. So you don't have to you don't have to worry about that.
And then one last question.
Yes.
So once they're provisioned, we have lots of reports in Intune. Like we have a remoting connection report, and in the Frontline offering, I believe we have some sort of activity report. Do these Cloud PCs also just roll up to all those same reports, just like any other like Cloud PC SKU?
Yes, they all are up to the same reports we have today that's available on enterprise. Like basically, we're making it as familiar with the IT admin and the customer as much as possible to ensure that they're familiar. We're not kind of changing anything drastically from the user experience perspective. So definitely, they are available with the reports we have today.
Okay, so really, it is, as we mentioned earlier, just another SKU. And you just choose that SKU and you're good to go. Okay, this is cool.
I'll add really just another SKU, but a more powerful SKU that is more kind of useful for you in terms of your computing needs and your GPU needs. So
for sure. Cool. Okay. Yeah, having as both of you know, as previously driving a lot of provisioning experiences and Intune experiences with Windows 365, I myself was just very curious to see how seamless and integrated it is. So I'm a very happy camper over here.
Right. Hey, I wanted to point out that earlier I talked about my preview blog, and we didn't actually have a really good link handy for that. So this is actually a better pointer for that one. So if you want to go see more details about you've basically paid for this, but you could potentially get more, I covered that topic, and then I explain how you can essentially see what you got provisioned. One of the other common questions that I cover there is that people are interested in knowing GPU specifics, and we really don't get into that because one of the promises with Windows 365 is that we're going to basically do all that hardware management for you, and so we have the ability to continuously upgrade hardware and improve it as newer, better hardware becomes available. And so that's always part of our roadmap and plan. And so we kind of focus on generic specifics, but with GPUs, sometimes people are a little more sensitive to what type of GPU they have because they have a product that requires a specific type. So I can disclose that for the standard SKU, it may be NVIDIA or AMD, but for the Super and Max, it will currently be NVIDIA only. And so, that's something that I know is very important for some of the really super high-end workloads that require CUDA. And so if that's something you're interested in, and as one other hot topic is that we cover in the mechanics video is some people want a development machine for doing machine learning and so forth. And while that's not really the target of this particular offering, the Max SKU is the only SKU that's supported for that type of work. I mean, obviously there's AI, through all apps that you work with today, and that works on any of the SKUs. But, in terms of doing like really hardcore compute and processing for that type of stuff, the Max SKU is the right SKU for that. And again, it's covered very well in the mechanics video. And so again, that blog is aka.ms Ron's GPU blog.
I was gonna say I love the link that we have for your blog.
Yeah, awesome.
I need to make my own blog just so I can have a Christian's GPU blog or Christian's experience blog.
Yeah. I also see we got a good question about MMR that I think would be really good to hit on too, because I think that's a really good one.
Yeah, it's very so I'll just read it out for folks. Yep. So from the audience, I read somewhere that MMR doesn't play well with GPU Cloud PCs. Is that true? And can you explain that more?
Yep,
yeah, go ahead, Ron.
A great question. Yeah, so MMR is really designed to improve your experience for the fact that you don't have a GPU.
Right, and MMR being multimedia redirection.
Correct. And so it's why that even though everything's being software rendered without a GPU in your Cloud PC, you can play a YouTube video or have Teams video conversation, and the video is nice and smooth. Is because it's doing some back end tricks to make all that work seamlessly. But with a GPU-enabled Cloud PC, you actually have a dedicated GPU, so you don't need that multimedia redirection. So in fact, when we provision these, we disable that functionality, so that way you're actually taking advantage of the GPU, and so the experience that you have, you won't miss it. You'll definitely have a better experience without it for this. So definitely looking forward to people who use this product see the improvements.
Awesome. Let's see. There was another question. Oh, more of a curveball, but we'll still kind of read it out from X. And it was, are there any plans to make Windows 365 Cloud PCs for non-commercial home and power users? So yeah, I feel like we've been getting that a lot more lately, which I think is makes us blush because it means that you folks, it sounds like y'all really like these Cloud PCs. So that's awesome. We love to hear it. You can provide that same feedback at ak.ms/w365 feedback. But right now we don't have any plans for that. But I mean, keep providing it. Again, if you love it for the regular enterprise SKUs, if you love this GPU Cloud PC SKU, let us know how you're using it and how I guess you'd want to use it in a non commercial setting.
Yep.
Cool. I was like, yeah, it's a curveball, but I can see why a topic like today's really does push that needle. Like, wow, you're making all this awesome compute available. Can I yeah, Ron, like you said, you have a photography background. Like I can
Yep.
imagine others being like, yeah, I have this older device, but if I could just pay for it month over month, then it makes it
Yep.
so easy. So I could see it, folks, but again, we don't have anything
Yep.
planned. All right. Let's see a question that we have. Our company is still 6 months out from a hardware refresh. Wow, that's a lot. And are still on Windows 10. Can we
Yep.
use GPU Cloud PCs?
Yes, Windows 10 is supported. Obviously, we would like people to be using Windows 11, and there's some cool benefits. One kind of quirky benefit of GPU-enabled Cloud PCs is that if you run Windows 11 on a normal Cloud PC, all the corners are squared. You need a GPU actually to get those rounded corners in all the windows and some of the effects that are in Windows 11's UI. And so you actually get that with Windows 11 on a GPU-enabled Cloud PC. Quirky, but I always thought that's kind of funny. Not necessarily a reason to upgrade, but definitely
do it for the corners.
Exactly, do it for those rounded corners. But that's the type of customer that we'd love to work with and get them to kick the tires and give us their feedback and let us know how they like this solution.
Yeah, the other thing that I know that we have as part of the Windows 10 to Windows 11 transition and migration, I know that we have our extended security updates available for Windows 10, where if you have Cloud PC licenses and you're using your Windows 10 devices to connect to your Cloud PC, then those Windows 10 devices will automatically get the ESU, um, you know, eh, to help you in that transition. So when regular support does end, you're not cut out left, to dry, and we help you in that transition. There's slightly different benefits when you're using Azure Virtual Desktop, but for Windows 365, you can connect from a Windows 10 device to a Cloud PC and get those extended security updates. In the meantime. Cool. Let's see. Maybe the question is, what's the best practices for ensuring that our team all has the exact same GPU config? Femi, I don't know if you want to take this. I know that Ron was mentioning some of the, we handle the hardware, but I don't know if you can answer more on this, Femi.
Sure. So the question was, what exactly is the best practice to ensure teams have the same exact GPU
configuration? Yeah.
Ron,
I'm happy to take this one if you want.
Ron, you want to take this? Yeah.
Sure. So they're always provisioned the same way. We have a limited, set of types of GPUs that we worked with and qualified for this. And for the most part, we try to have everybody get the same thing. It's more regional specific, different data centers, different sizes and different schedules for how they upgrade their hardware. And so generally speaking, if you're all in the same region, the odds are in your favor that everybody's going to get the exact same configuration. It's where you're in a scenario of maybe, you're dealing with a really remote, small region. You might get a different GPU versus, one of the big hero regions, common regions that you're familiar with, here all the time and stuff. You'll generally get the same, GPU. Super and max are even more so. Standard is the one where, it's going to be our biggest seller, we believe. And so, there's more demand, there's more need to, potentially fall back on a backup SKU if capacity is constrained in a given region. But generally speaking, the goal is to have everybody in the same thing, and provisioning in the same region together is going to be the best way to go to get the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we see the same for even the non GPU cloud PCs. Like
Yep.
you mentioned, we just we always want to make sure that we meet the requirements that you're paying for. So yeah, for GPU, like for some of them, there's the minimum.
Right.
But even for enterprise and frontline, um, you're paying for a specific amount of eCPU,
Right.
RAM, and storage. And so, as a as a service, we're making sure that you have it available, even if it means under on the back end as you're switching out hardware. Like our, we're making sure that you're up with your specs. And that's what you're paying for. So.
Yep.
Oh, we got a couple more questions in the meantime. So one of them is saw the Windows app announcement, which was GA for the Windows, web, iOS, and macOS clients, and then public preview for Android. And assuming GPU cloud PCs are accessible from there, just like everywhere else.
Yes,
Maybe
yes, yes. The accessible that's like your traditional enterprise SKU, and it's something that I'm happy that we we actually went GA with, right? So thanks to all the folks that worked on this great feature. So that's one of the benefits. Like you have the Windows app, and you get kind of the same experience you get with the kind of your enterprise SKU. So definitely you can download the app and have access to your GPU enabled cloud PC on
Yep.
that app, and you can run it.
And one really cool feature of the Windows app that I think a lot of people who are experimenting with it don't really go and discover right away is that if you go into settings, they have an option for allowing you to turn off the default for the layout of your Windows. And like I mentioned, I have 3 displays. I have one that's down low, one above, and one off to the left, which is kind of an odd configuration. And the cool thing that the Windows app allows me to do is allows me to select which displays I want that session to run on. And so, very often I want to keep my main system, which is my laptop, not a cloud PC, so that the things that I'm running locally I can have there, and my other 2 displays set up for the cloud PC. So I actually did a post on my LinkedIn where I showed off that feature, because I've always wanted that for RDP since the beginning of time, to be able to control which how my windows get displayed on a per setting basis. And so I can do it different depending on which cloud PC I have in there. So I personally encourage people to use the Windows app and forget everything else, because that's such a great experience for this.
Yeah.
It obviously works with anything, but I love that experience personally.
Well, for folks that are listening, if we have time and can find it, we'll make another ak.ms/Ron's GPU LinkedIn post
Yeah.
to go with
That'll
your
take me a
blog.
second.
If we have time and can find it, we'll just,
Yeah.
add that in there for everything Ron. Our
Okay,
superstar.
sure.
Our GPU.
I'll get to working on
Oh my
that.
goodness. All right. So the next question we have is, how fast does the user's internet connection need to be to run a Windows 365 GPU cloud PC?
Yeah, I get to try that one out really how low can you go at my house? Because I've got 4 kids and a whole bunch of devices, so I have probably the most pathetic performance on my PC. I'm that person that in the Teams meeting that usually needs to turn off video time to time because it's just too much for my pathetic connection. And I think the fastest upload speed I usually get is about 5 megabits per second. That's on a really great day, sometimes as low as 2.5. And then downloads are 15, 20 on a good day. So they're pretty pathetic at my house, and that still works fine. I mean, basically, if you're using any cloud PC today, that just is the same thing. All the real work is happening behind the scenes on your cloud PC, and so you just need to be able to render that window. Obviously, your display performance will come into play. So if you have as I mentioned earlier, if you have a display that's only 20 frames per second, that's going to degrade your experience. But that's not an internet connection. That's just hardware performance. So if you have that 60 frames per second display and modest internet connectivity, that works fine displaying an existing cloud PC or RDP session today. You're going to be great. Basically, if you can watch Netflix or you can watch a YouTube video in full screen without any interruption, you're going to have a fantastic experience.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I feel like that combines with what you were mentioning about the Windows app, where, yeah, if you do have different monitor setups, play with what Ron mentioned, the monitors that will be using the connection. That way you can see which one works for you. Whether it is the full screen, and you are using the Cloud PC, the GPU Cloud PC for everything, or you're using it for a specific app or two, and so you have it on one side while doing other stuff locally.
Right.
And then one other question: can we get trials for GPU Cloud PCs? What's the process?
Work with your account team. It is a different price point than your typical cloud PC, and then the obviously it's a specialized SKU versus one of our traditional SKUs, so the availability globally is at a very different level, and so there are more constraints around this one than a typical one. So I wouldn't expect your account team to give you a whole bunch of these for free, or it's not going to happen. But you could definitely talk to them about what your options are.
Sounds good. Femi, maybe for you, we've had some issues with teams hogging resources in our normal cloud PCs. Would GPU standard make that experience better?
Yeah, I think it will be in the context of what you mean by teams hanging. But the answer is yes. Your experience will be better with any of the GPU SKUs today. So whether you have a standard, max, or super, the experience will be better. We've kind of ensured that kind of obviously through our testing and through our obviously to the benchmark things we've done, we ensure that the experience is seamless and also the compute power is enough to kind of work with any standard or in traditional apps that we currently use today.
Yeah, because I think I know for teams we do optimization, so we try to offload and have essentially a direct physical device to server connection for audio and video. But there are cases where video isn't offloaded. I think it's like the PowerPoint live sharing feature, where essentially the server has PowerPoint and then it projects that up to all the users. I know that one is not media offloaded, so maybe in situations like that it would be better. But yeah, so I think if there's any time, especially where it's a lot of the computing stuff, yeah, I agree. I think that the GPU should make it better. The only other tidbit I'd suggest about the teams hanging or hogging resources is do make sure you're using the teams optimizations. We announced the GA of the new optimizations for teams. Behind the scenes, we call it VDI 2.0. It's just the newer the newer way that we're doing optimizations. That way, it's really all handled within the Teams app. That went GA for connections from the Windows app, or I guess Windows app on Windows. And we're working to also make that available for other platforms as soon as we can, really. If we have any previews for that, we'll let you know. We do have our roadmaps available. So we'll post any of that information there. But do make sure for Teams specifically, you are offloading the media with the Teams optimizations. And then, yeah, if it's other hogging resources, just compute power, then yeah, anything that's either the new 16 offering for enterprise and frontline, or whether it's the GPU SKU, should help there. And then we have 10 minutes left. We have a couple more questions, and then we'll start wrapping up.
Sure.
One question is, do GPU Cloud PCs work with apps that direct call APIs?
Yes, so that's hardware acceleration. This is exactly what this SKU is built for. So the short answer is yes. It supports, both the CUDA driver when an NVIDIA GPU is present, so you can call directly into CUDA. DirectX, hardware acceleration is supported, and so if that's important to you, this is the SKU you've been waiting for.
Perfect. So let's see. We did joke earlier, if you stayed all the way to the end of the the call, that we would get you Ron's LinkedIn post.
Yeah, there you go.
So there it is, aka.ms/Ron's LinkedIn post.
There you go.
For his experiences on GPU. That way you can get the learnings from there, and then the previous blog post, and then also our Learn documentation, and you can get a really good end-to-end sense of what that experience is like. And then earlier we also linked to the mechanics video, again, which is also an awesome overview of the capability. So we'll post that here again. That's ak.ms/w365/GPU/mechanics. All right. Well, that's actually all the questions we have today. What I like to do is, with you both, I like just ending the segment on what are your tips and tricks, and or what are you excited about? And so it's kind of open-ended. I'm assuming it'll be GPU based. But Ron, I'll start with you.
Okay, I've got a really nerdy one for Adobe users. So one of the cool features that I talk about in the mechanics video for GPU-enabled Cloud PCs is that it comes with a temp drive, and that temp drive is great for putting all your cached files and so forth. However, the Adobe apps are a little weird because they don't let you just go and pick what drive you want to be your, quote, scratch drive, or place where all those cache files goes. It tries to be intelligent, and it looks at the drives and gives you a list of choices. And temp drives, these are ephemeral drives, we talk about this in the mechanics video, by default have the root directory security settings set to system. So it's basically a read-only at the root directory. And in order for Adobe apps to actually see that drive and show it in its scratch list, you need to go change the permissions to make the root directory of the temp drive writable. So it's easy to do. Just go into Explorer, select the drive, and give it right permissions. And once you do that, then it'll
security, permissions.
Yeah. And so it's a super nerdy thing. Really hard to figure out. Took me a while to figure it out and stuff. And we're going to eventually do an article on that. But definitely for those who are ready to go, kick the tires or have one already, that's a big tip, because you're going to get your best performance when you're putting all those cache files in that temp drive. But remember, that is an ephemeral temp drive. It means when the system's rebooted, it gets completely wiped. And so you're going to have to go do that setting again.
All right. Well, we'll bookmark the ak.ms/Ron's tips and tricks. Okay, Femi, what are your final tips and tricks?
Sure. I think for me, just in general, like I use Adobe Photoshop just to kind of my spare time to kind of edit edit pictures and obviously just edit pictures, and maybe I'll probably say my trick, I think, is just more one thing I've come to learn kind of using the Cloud PC, the GPU Cloud PC, is just the kind of fastness and experience you get with those with kind of using those kind of your traditional apps is more seamless in terms of using them, in terms of actually processing them. So I'll definitely say for me it's just really kind of one. I would say go try a GPU Cloud PC. They are great for scenarios like this where you're editing video and you're doing anything around 3D modeling or graphics. So I would say for me it's just kind of the experience has been amazing. And one thing I also say is that we're evolving this SKU and this product. So please, feedbacks are welcome. I think we'll have a feedback link there. They're welcome. So please feel free to kind of reach out to myself and Ron. Ron has his blog. He has his LinkedIn profile. Kind of reach out to us. We can kind of we're open to feedback and also helping improve the product. And we would like to kind of hear what your experience has been with the GPU enabled Cloud PC SKU.
I got one more cool tip. Stay tuned to the LinkedIn. One cool thing that we have is a iOS app for the Windows app. And so that allows you to launch your Cloud PCs from your phone, which you think, oh, well, that's kind of hard to do anything with there. But the cool thing that you forget is that you can screencast that to your display. So one fun thing that I found myself doing on a recent trip was I projected my Photoshop up to the TV, and then used my iPhone as the stylus to go work in there and do some image editing. To be fair, there's a lot of stuff that's precise, so it's not the ideal, but for what I needed to do, it got the job done. And I thought that was such a cool experience because kind of to the earlier point about network connectivity, I was able to use my phone as my host for my Cloud PC and just a dumb TV that was able to support casting in order to see a big, large version of it and actually do something meaningful. In my case, it was some generative AI to remove some distractions. And so super cool experience. And I'll be doing a video of that on my LinkedIn coming soon.
Sweet. Cool. Well, I think my tip and trick is I want to look at the reports just to get all the GPU Cloud PCs and maybe steal Femi so I can assign it to myself and start using it. But the other tip and trick is please join us later this month for the October AMA, October 30th. You can go to ak.ms/AMA/Windows 365 to find out future dates, bookmark them, add them to your calendar so you don't miss these in the future. Thank you so much, Ron and Femi. Hopefully we answered everyone's questions, but also a great discussion. So yeah, thank you both. And thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you for having us. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.